Okay, welcome to day 2 of Intro to Object-Oriented Programming. I really appreciate the introductions and the code that was sent my way. It gives me hope for our future. Okay, what I'd like to do today is first I'd like to go through a requirements document that I've created that should lend to our project, and then I'd like to review some of the code that was sent in and say some nice things about it. So in order to see the requirements document, I would go to our lunch learning channel, Y4S2 Object-Oriented Programming, and go to Files, okay? And here on the Files tab, you can see Movie Night Requirements.docx. Okay, and here is a lovely write-up about the process of doing movie night. I've got the privilege of being on the Culture Club, and I've been through a couple different movie nights now, and I see the process, and I tell you, it's time to improve this process. It's a ton of work for a huge group of people, and a computer program could really solve this problem. So whether you know it or not, all of your thinking, all of your programming is going to contribute to an actual program that will facilitate movie night. So no pressure though, right? Okay. I won't read this entire document to you at this time, but just know that the document is here. This is going to guide me for the rest of the video today on how to create some objects and classes that will help us with movie night with software, okay? So just know that that is a thing. All right, I've got Visual Studio Code open here, and I want to take some time to review some of the code that was sent to us. So I will pause the recording while I load up those videos, or that code. Okay, and we're back. So we have here one of the classes that we need for our movie night software, okay? So we have the guest class. The guest class has some data and some behavior here, and I really like the division here, right? It's easy to see which is the data and which is behavior. So a guest has a name, a number of seats, and whether they've paid or not, okay? And the behavior is, it's allowing them into the theater, it looks like, okay? Or assigning them the tickets. When they go to do their guest thing, we check to see if they have paid. And if they've paid, we say, here you go, here are your tickets. And if not, we tell them they need to pay. So I like this class. This class models things for guests of our movie night. I thought this was a really good job. Okay, we can see here making a couple new guests. We've got Christian and Holly. They've got, it looks like they need seats for everyone on Earth. So great job, Christian and Holly. And Christian has paid, but Holly has not. Okay, notice here that though they are both guests, they have different data and behavior, and one of the objects has actually got a variable name of Holly, and one of the objects has got a variable name of Christian. This is the power of object-oriented programming, so great job. I'll load up the next one. Okay, we've got the next class that was submitted here loaded up. It models ticket assignments, and this is a very tough topic, so way to go, Kurt, for tackling a tough topic. Okay, ticket assignment here, we've got an array of, this is a two-dimensional array, so it's modeling the theater seats, right? We've also got seat letters, seat numbers, and occupants, and whether or not a seat is occupied, right? So here we were attempting to assign a seat. This looks like a good opportunity to introduce a seat class, and we'll actually do some of that today here pretty soon. And this function is very important. This is very close to a function that we will have in our app to assign seats, right? We need to know whether a seat has been assigned or not to show if it's available. And it looks like we've got a couple methods here to load up file data to give us information about the tickets that have been reserved. So this was a very good class. A lot of work here by Kurt. Great job, Kurt. So thank you for submitting code, and I hope that you will all continue to submit code. We will give you feedback. We will review it here in virtual class, so please feel free to send us your code. Okay, I'm going to close these for now. Save. Great. So what I'd like to do for the remainder of our video here is go through this requirements document. Okay. So very often when you're writing software, the software writing process all begins with a conversation with someone who is not a software developer, and they describe to you a problem that they have that they're trying to solve. Okay, so this is similar to something that you would get, maybe some notes after a meeting that you've had with a potential client or a member of your business who wants you to write some software. Okay, so I've got that document here, and this is going to reveal to us the types of, or the classes that we need to create, and what those classes need to, what the behavior and the data in each class needs. Okay, so I'm going to actually scoot this aside, and I'm going to keep a little bit of a notepad here going that will tell us what classes and what behavior and data each of those need. So let's go through this. All right, as you may or may not know, it's always the executive team that says it's time for a movie night. Bless those guys. They're the ones who pay for it. They're the ones who sign it up. The Culture Club just kind of makes all of the logistics happen, but really it's the executive team who we need to thank for the movie nights. Okay, so very first, the executive team tells us that it's time to take the health equity team to go see a movie. Wonderful. The Culture Club decides which movie to watch, and a member of the Culture Club contacts a theater to see which dates are available for a group of our size for the selected movie. Okay, so here it's kind of nuanced, kind of not. We can tell that there are some classes that we need to create here. Okay, so very first, we know that there is going to be a class called movie event. Okay, that movie event is going to have some data in it. We know that the Culture Club gets to decide which movie we watch. So there's probably a property in here or some of the data that is movie to watch. Okay. Next, we need to see which theater. Theater location. That's some data about a movie event, right? A member of the Culture Club contacts a theater to see which dates are available for a group of our size. So there's probably going to be dates of the movie event. Okay. The theater offers a list of showings and what date and what time those showings will occur. Okay, so there's probably going to be many showings that belong to this movie event. Okay. A showing is something that we also need to model. So I think a showing probably deserves its own class because each showing takes place in a theater. So a showing happens in a theater, right? And we probably even want to separate out theater into its own class, right? So a showing happens in a theater, okay? Each showing takes place in a theater. Theaters have seats organized into rows, and each seat has a unique number in the row. Each theater has a maximum capacity. All right, so a theater has a maximum capacity. It's got rows of seats, and each of those seats has a unique number, right? So we probably even need another class, seat. Okay. So the number of required showings to accommodate our group is variable depending on the capacity of the theaters while the showing is taking place. As an example, if there are 1,200 team members and everybody brings 2 to 3 people, we'll need 2,400 to 3,600 total seats. If each theater has 200 seats, then it's 12 to 18 showings. And if a showing accommodates 300, then we need 8 to 12 showings, okay? So here is our hierarchy right now. We have a movie event. A movie event has some data. A movie event has a list of showings. A showing happens in a theater, and a showing, as you all know from movie night, has a date and a start time. Okay. Then we have a theater. The theater has a maximum capacity, that's the number of seats. It has collections of seats, and then a seat has a seat number. So you can see here how we have taken this paragraph and we've started dividing things up. This probably won't be our final model, but we've got some classes now with some data. Okay, so let's go create some classes. This should be pretty simple now. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to add a file and I'm going to call this movie event. Okay, we want a public, and I'm going to move our little talking head over to this side of the screen so it's not in the way. Bye-bye, talking head. Public class. Oh, little nuance about Visual Studio Code. You always need to make sure and do a .cs at the end of the file to say this is a C# file. Public class movie event. Okay, a movie event, as we all know, has a specific movie that we will watch. So I'm going to say public string movie name. Okay, a movie event also has a theater location. So maybe I will create this as a public string theater name, right? Thanksgiving Point Megaplex, Jordan Commons, something like that. Okay, we may also say public string theater address. We will always spell theater right. Quit laughing at my spelling. Okay, and then the dates of the movie event. So we probably need a collection of dates. And for now, we will make this a string. And of course, this is public movie dates. Okay, and we need a collection of showings because as we all know, there, like in the last movie, there were like 7 showings, okay? So we need a public array of showings. This is a class that doesn't exist yet. We'll call it showings, okay? So Visual Studio is yelling at us now saying, hey, I can't find a type called showing, okay? It's probably a good idea to always put your classes in separate files, but just to start, we are going to put 2 classes in the same file. So I'm going to create now the public class showing. Okay, now you can see that this class, movie event, contains a collection or an array of showings, right? And this model is real life. We have an event with lots of showings. Here we go. What is the data in a showing? So a showing happens in a theater. So we'll say public theater, spelled it right first try. We'll just call it theater. Okay, again, we need a theater class. We'll leave this empty for right now, just to make our showing class stop yelling at us. Okay, very good. A showing happens in a theater. A showing happens on a date. I'm gonna figure out why it's not liking date time. I'm mad about that. Okay, we just had to add a using system. Thanks, Visual Studio Code. Okay, so a showing happens in a theater and at a date time. We'll just call this start time. Okay, very good. Now a theater has a maximum capacity and a collection of seats. Okay, so I think public int max capacity is fine. And then we want a collection of seats. So we probably want, let's see, a public seat collection. We probably want a public row collection. Okay. Thanks for nothing, Visual Studio. Escape. Okay, and a seat. Has a seat number. And a row has a row number. Probably a row letter. Okay, so we have successfully modeled all of these things. Right now, we're only holding data because the behavior part of this comes when we assign seats or when we sign up, okay? Very good. Well, we've got our list of objects that we extracted from our requirements, and we made those classes right here. Okay, let's keep going through our requirements document. Okay, sign up. Once the event has been planned, team members can start signing up for the movie. Team members sign up by first specifying their name and employee ID, then specifying how many tickets they will need to accommodate their family. Once those details have been determined, a list of available showings should be presented to the team member. Team members can then select a showing to attend and sign up for the showing. The team member does not specify which seats they want, as this is done during assignment. Okay. Let's go through this again. Pause the video right now, go through the sign up paragraph, see what classes and what behavior or data you would assign to those classes. Here's my pause face. Okay, very good. Hopefully you paused and you have something now. So let's talk about the classes. I think very first we have a team member class. Okay, a team member has several pieces of data. For example, their name, their employee ID, okay? A team member RSVPs. So we'll just call this a registration for now. There's probably a better word here, but we'll figure it out, okay? In fact, there is a better word. We're gonna use an RSVP because a lot of our team members RSVP and say they can't go. So very first we want to say is attending, okay? So tell us whether or not you're coming. If you are coming, well, you need to tell us which team member is coming. So team member, okay? And if you are RSVPing, that means you have selected a showing, okay? Okay, and for that selected showing, how many seats? Okay, a team member RSVPs. An RSVP ties a team member to a showing and it determines how many seats are desired. Okay? So let's go ahead and add some more classes and some behavior and data to our classes. Scooty, scoot, scoot, scoot you over. Okay. I think that we need to create a team member class. Okay, a team member has a couple pieces of data. Their name, their employee ID. Okay. We also want to model an RSVP, public RSVP, public class RSVP. Always got to say class. And this RSVP, we want to know whether they're attending or not. Okay, there we have an RSVP. All right. So we've got our classes that are holding our data, we need to do some behavior now, okay? So a team member needs to specify how many seats they want. So I think that we need something to facilitate signing up, okay? So these are classes that are a little less obvious to create. Sometimes the actions that we take aren't really easy to define, just like an RSVP or a team member is, okay? So I'm going to save here, and I'm going to maximize this, move our talking head down here to the terminal, out of the way. I'm going to save everything. All right, so let's talk about requirements here. First off, we need to determine how many showings we need to get, okay? So I think another piece of data that we need is forecasted attendees. All right, this is how many people we think are going to come, okay? Very next, we want to add some behavior. So we have a member of the Culture Club has contacted the theater, has told the theater how many attendees we have, and the theater will kind of say, well, you need to do 20 showings, okay? So we need to add showings here. Let's do that by public void add showing. Okay, and this is going to have to accept a showing to add. Okay, so someone is going to use this behavior of the movie event class to add showings. Okay, they will have already created a showing. This showing here, let's add it to our showings array. And I'm going to change this from an array to a list because arrays are not so fun to work with. Okay, let's add our using. So here I'm going to make sure and we add showings, add, showing to add. Okay. There are better ways to do this, but I'm not going to teach you them right now. I'm going to teach you the hard way, okay? I'm going to create a property I've created a property for total seats available, okay? So now that we've added the showing, we want to update the total seats available. Total seats available is equal to the showing to add dot theater dot max capacity, okay? So essentially, we are going to keep a property in the movie event that says, this is how many seats we have in the movie event, right? Because remember, we need to allocate enough seats for 2,400 to 3,600 team members. Okay, I'm going to add some more behavior. Public bool, do we have enough seats? Okay, and we will know that we have enough seats if the total seats available is greater than the forecasted attendees. Okay, greater than or equal to. So this is some important behavior for the movie event. Imagine that you're a person who's setting up this movie event and you go and you've added 14 showings. You want to know, do I need to keep adding showings? Well, we have ways to do that now. When you add showings, we're going to make sure and keep a running total of how many seats we have. And then we have added a way to this class to say, do I have enough showings for my forecasted movie event? Right? So this is all behavior. This is all data that I think belongs to the movie event. And this is the power of object-oriented programming. Now imagine that you're setting up not just Health Equity's movie night, but imagine that this software is now being used at a local company who specializes in setting up movie nights for companies. So they're setting up a movie night every week, okay? This is awesome because we can reuse this software to plan lots of movie nights. We can say, maybe we add something here to say the company for this movie event, right? Right now for Health Equity, it will always be Health Equity, so there's really no reason to record that, okay? But this classes and creating objects from classes is the power of object-oriented programming. We have created a template. We have created a way for people to have movie night events. And now Health Equity or whoever can continually use this same piece of code to create many movie nights, okay? And that's what we want to do with object-oriented programming. Imagine that if for every movie night we had to write a new program, okay? Or we had a very specific program that we had to hurry and try and change. Object-oriented programming really lends itself to reuse, okay? Let's continue to go through here and add functionality to our classes. Okay, I think it would be important to say public bool is reserved. Okay, so we know whether a seat is reserved or not. And maybe we add a class here to, well, let's not do that. All right, you remember from, well, let's talk about requirements real quick, okay? So we're gonna skip changes for now and go to assignment. Once there's a sign up cutoff date, so we ask people to RSVP before a certain date. Once that date has arrived, it's time to assign seats to team members, okay? So let's say Jane. Jane came and RSVP'd and said, I want to go Tuesday night at 7:30 and I need 10 tickets, okay? The way we're going to start, and I know many of you will be upset by this, but the way we're gonna start assigning seats is from the back of the theater to the front. Okay, so Jane was the very first person to RSVP and she said she needed 10 seats. So a theater has a row, the very back row is M, and it's got 15 seats, and she's requested 10 tickets. So we need to go to the very back row, very first seat, and start assigning tickets, okay? The next person, Jill, has asked for 7 seats. So she'll get the remaining 5 seats on the back row because she RSVP'd second, and then we'll start on the next row. And we want people to sit by each other, so we kind of do a S-shaped assignment, right? We fill up one row and then we jump to the next row, but we start at the end of the row rather than the start of the row so that people who are split up can at least sit in front of each other or have their family behind them, okay? So it's time to start talking about assignment. We've added here to our class seat and is reserved, okay? So maybe the way we want to do this is we want to add something here. We want to say a public bool or public int get number open seats, right? And all this is going to do is go through, and again, there is a much better way to do this, but we haven't taught it yet, so I'm going to write a loop. I'm going to say int seats reserved 0 for each seat s in seats. I want to go through and check to see if it's reserved, s dot is reserved. We're going to come in and increment our seats reserved. Okay, so this gets number of open seats, so this is counting. We actually want to say, give me the seats that are not reserved. Let's update this to make sure it makes more sense. All right, so we want to know on a row how many open seats there are. We want to know that because when it comes time to assign them, we want to say, okay, give me the next possible row and give me how many seats are available there, take the number of requested seats and start doing some math and assign seats, okay? Some more behavior here. We probably want to reserve many seats. Okay, so let's do that. Public void reserve many seats, and we want the number of seats to reserve. Okay, we are not going to fill out this algorithm right now because that would be a brain bender and I don't want to look dumb on this video. So just know that we have our row class has some data, a row of seats, a collection of seats, and we can go through each of those seats and see whether it's reserved or not, and we can reserve seats. So it would look something like, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to do it. Stop making me do it. Okay. Let us continue looking at, let's look at changes real quick. So most of the work that is done by the Culture Club during movie events is to accommodate requests after RSVP. And this is fine. This is very normal. I think it's something that makes us purple. You RSVP, and then you find out that your spouse or your mom made plans for you on the time and date that you RSVP'd to the movie. So you email the Culture Club and you say, hey, I would really like to change. I would like to go on a different day. And that's totally fine. We'd like to write software to enable team members to do this themselves. So these are some of the changes that can be made, right? Team members need to increase or decrease the number of tickets they got. Maybe they had planned on bringing their kids, but then they decided to make it a date night, or maybe it was a date night and the babysitter fell through, so they need to bring their kids, okay? Oftentimes team members say, hey, I can't attend, so the seats need to become unreserved and need to go back to the pool of available seats. Sometimes people want to swap, but we don't want to give up our tickets before we know we can swap for the time we want. So there's lots of behavior here that needs to happen, okay? So in order to enable that behavior, let's write down some stuff, okay? Move floating head to the middle of the screen. Okay, very first, sometimes I need to cancel my RSVP. So some behavior here will be cancel RSVP. All right. Sometimes I need to add tickets. And sometimes I need to release tickets, or drop tickets is probably something that's better to say. And sometimes I want to switch showings. Okay, so here's some behavior. Let's take those changes and let's go start changing our RSVP class. So here we have an RSVP. Very first, I think I need to cancel my RSVP. So there's a couple things that need to happen here. When I cancel my RSVP, the tickets that I selected need to become available, right? So very first, I'm going to make a method, public void cancel. Okay, we will only want to let them cancel if they've selected a showing. If they haven't selected a showing, there's nothing to cancel, we're done. Okay? If they have selected a showing, we are not done. So we will say, First off, we need to release the seats. And then we probably just need to mark this RSVP as canceled. Or just say that they're not attending. Okay. So let's change that comment. Okay, I think releasing the seats probably belongs to the showing, right? But we need to provide some data to the showing to say, hey, don't just release all of the seats in the showing, release my seats. Okay, so this is some functionality to be determined here. But can you see how this RSVP has its own behavior and its own data? The state of this RSVP can change, right? A team member came and signed up and then they canceled 4 days later. So tracking this in an RSVP class, in an RSVP object, makes it a lot easier for a person to understand. And that is another aim at object-oriented programming, right? We want to model real life. We want to increase developer efficiency by making code, by grouping code together, okay? By increasing cohesion, right? Put like principles in the same proximate location as their other like principles, okay? Changing the RSVP can be done by manipulating the RSVP class and RSVP object. Okay, the assignment for now, because I believe we're out of time, is to go through the rest of this requirements document and don't write any code. Just take all of the behavior and the data and group together some objects. I really would like to see how you group the behavior and the data into classes, okay? And remember, sometimes you're going to need a class that isn't a real life thing like ticket assigner, right? Maybe we need a helper class that has all the rules for ticket assignment, okay? So please go through and do that, and I wish you all the best.